Huzaifa Dentite 313 on Instagram. Okay, so TikTok, you got 1.3 million and 1.2, 1.3 million. And as you hit some success here with social media, I think it started from TikTok and then you pulled from TikTok. Here's the thing though, I was looking. Your biggest TikTok was 13 million views. The biggest Instagram was 19.
Oh,
But you have
wow.
more followers on TikTok. So, hey, it's Brendan. Thanks so much for tuning in the podcast today. This is a compilation of stuff I find valuable. I hope you do too. Enjoy. All right, we're on. Huzaifa, how are we doing?
Yeah, good, man. Good.
Thanks so much for coming on. I mean, I know long day at the office, I'm sure. I know you
No,
only have
yeah,
a
it's my pleasure, man. I know you guys are extremely busy as a resident. You probably have a crazy day as well. And yeah, I mean, today was it wasn't bad. It was just a few root canals, extractions, and the crown preps. And yeah, that's about it.
it's not too bad.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah.
good day.
It was a good day, except I separated a file on a second molar number 18, which was annoying. And it doesn't really happen to me, but I did tell the patient, hey, this is going to be a tough root canal. Let's see what happens. And he has like this weird curve in the mesial root. And of course, at that curve, it's separated. I'm like,
Uh, that
but
wasn't the last patient, was it?
yeah, no, it wasn't the last one, but it was just
Okay.
annoying. I mean, I told him, hey, this can happen. We'll see what happens. Like, he doesn't have, the best insurance, so root canal specialists don't accept even his dental insurance. So, anyway, I just said, let's see what happens. And if it works out, great. If it doesn't, then we may have to extract and do an implant in the future.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah,
That's a real
yeah.
bummer. Was he understanding of it though?
Yeah, yeah, he was actually nice. He was pretty cool. So that's one thing in dentistry is I tell everyone this, and it's like all new dentists. It takes a while to figure out, but sometimes I'm a expert witness for a law firm for defending dentists, general dentists against lawsuits. And one thing the lawyers always mentioned is that it's just these really weird. You have to read the room, read the patient, because if they're difficult, don't difficult personality, just very like, you can kind of pick up on this, just very argumentative, or they blame every single dentist before you, and you typically don't want to work on those type of patients because a lot of times it'll come back to bite you.
Hey, wait, that's some big info right there. What? So you
Yeah,
said argumentative, right? They're blaming
argumentative.
all the treatment of dentists previously. What would you say is a third key that you noticed?
uh yeah, argumentative. And some of them have very, very high expectations, which are unrealistic. And if they have high, unrealistic expectations, and you keep trying to tell them, hey, this is not really how it's gonna look less than what you have in your head. You can kind of picture like they're just like really like, oh, I want my smile to look like this, and it has to be a Hollywood smile, or this tooth has to work out. You have to save this tooth no matter what. And I tell them, hey, it's a questionable prognosis. It may not work, but if they're adamant that, hey, you got to save this, you have to do this, and if they're very unrealistic about it, then I don't want to work on them. I said, listen, I don't think it's going to work between us. I think we have two different philosophies, and better you see somebody else. And I didn't always get that. Like when I first started, I was there to please. I was there to please any patient, bend over backwards. If they want something done, I was like, okay, I'll do it. I'll do it. Don't worry about it. I'm going to do everything I can to make you happy. Because you're a new dentist, and even sometimes new specialists, they see that too, and they just want to make their referring doctors happy. They want to just be like, okay, I got to try my best, do whatever I can to keep this patient happy. But honestly, sometimes you just can't. And those patients that I've bent over, like sometimes just incredibly, just trying to help them out, they don't, sometimes unfortunately they don't appreciate it. They're just like, oh, you should have been doing that all along. And I'm like, listen, I'm doing whatever we can, and even that is not making them happy. So you realize that it's just a disaster. And okay, I'll give you another example, completely different, but I
Sure,
noticed this
sure.
in the car world, okay, with dealerships. Dealerships now, they don't want to sell you a car if you are going to be unhappy about the transaction. And I've noticed that several times. Like people will like say, I was going back and forth with the dealer. My dad got involved and he got upset with the dealer, and the negotiations were getting bad. And then the dealer was like, hey, listen, we don't really want to sell you the car. It's okay. You don't have to buy it. We'll find somebody else. Just forget about it. And the reason why dealerships are doing that is they don't want this unhappy customer to drive them crazy during the ownership of the car, during certain, you know what I mean, during warranty and
Mm,
all that stuff. These are the type of customers who are never happy. They're always going to be a thorn in your side. So same thing with dentistry or any service industry. You try and pick and choose who you want to deal with, and it's like
right.
I'm telling
Right.
you, 98% of patients, 99%, fine. They are great. They are amazing. They're beautiful people. But it's that 1% that will become a thorn in your side. So you try to eliminate as much as you can of that. And
Right.
that's
Right.
it, you know. So you'll pick up on that the more you do stuff and the more you read patients' behavior, body behavior, and things like that.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
I've started to notice a bit. I know exactly what you're talking about. In some cases, in certain facilities, it's like every patient does it.
Yeah, you
you can't
can't.
please every, every
I
single one
know
is
you
like,
can't
no, no, no.
refer everyone. You can't refer everyone who's crazy. I know what you mean. Especially in the setting you're at, you see a lot of stuff. And I have two offices, right? One in Waterford, which is suburbia. The other one is inner city Detroit. And
Mm,
a
mm.
lot of people ask me, why do you still have your Detroit office? Because I really don't make as much financially in Detroit as I do with the suburban practice. But Detroit, like inner cities, as I'm sure you see this, is that the pathology and the trauma you see in an inner city is unreal. You never see that anywhere else in America, right? Like inner city
It's true.
dental, inner city medical trauma is crazy. And so it's fascinating. And you actually become a better surgeon, a better practitioner, a clinician when you see trauma in intense cases, like intense pathology like that. It's like when I go to the suburbs, it's usually fairly easier stuff and I can cut through it really quickly because you see so much difficult, manage so
Yeah,
many difficult cases.
yeah. Actually, it's funny you mentioned that. You're talking about trauma. Just last week, I was talking to another resident, and it's like we were comparing here against another state. Say, I think it was like Yukon, right? They had familiarity with Yukon. I don't. But they were comparing here to there, and without mentioning the here, just because of protected purposes. But they were saying like here, inner city of New York City, right? Seeing a lot more slashes, stabbings, subway pushing into the subway a lot. Car versus car, bike versus car, and number one I would say is scooter. So blunt trauma, right, or
Wow.
slashes versus out at Yukon, they were saying you do see a significant number of like gunshot wounds. It's like a little bit definitely high speed moving vehicle, but less bike accidents, less scooter
Yes.
accidents, obviously, right? So
Yes.
it's cool
Yep.
how the areas and locations kind of adjust, just like you were saying with trauma. That's
Yeah.
for sure. Also, real quick, I just want to backpedal just for a brief
Sure.
moment. So Huzefa Dentite 313 on Instagram.
Yep.
Just a quick intro. So for
Oh
everyone
yeah.
listening
Yeah.
today, let's just a
Sure.
run through dental school. Did you do residency? Did you not? You're a private practice owner now. How'd you
Right.
kind of lay your feet into those roots?
Yeah. Sure. I'm sorry. We kind of skipped over that. We just jumped to the top
We're
because we always
flying.
jump.
We're flying right now.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, yeah. Huzaifa Kapadia, and I'm a general dentist. I graduated 2002 from University of Detroit Mercy. I went to undergrad from at University of Michigan Ann Arbor, and after graduating UDM, I did not do residency. I was debating about that, but I just went into private practice, and then I've been practicing for about 21 years or so. So I have two offices, one in Waterford, Michigan, and then the other one Detroit, Michigan. And
Suburb versus urban, like you said. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. And I just started working, and the first few offices I was in, it was pretty busy, pretty hectic, and they throw a lot at you. And honestly, I was not prepared. And it does take years to get better at what you do. Just the cases you see, how to analyze it, because in school we have very, very limited knowledge, and then as you know, when you get into the real world, you see a lot of stuff. So it's been good overall, pretty good, but
Yeah, yeah.
I've enjoyed it.
You were saying that you jumped right into private practice. Now you didn't just open up shop. You didn't
Yes,
hang a
sorry.
shingle.
So I did not open up shop. I worked for another dentist, for two different dentists, I should say, for about 3 years. And it's weird how I got into private practice because the second dentist I was working for, believe it or not, he fired me. And so he fired me because he said I was coming in late. And he was like, you're coming in 10, 15 minutes late. And I just don't, I was an associate with him for 2 years. And he's like, I just don't see you're that interested. And what was happening during that time is I was thinking about being an owner of a practice, and I was getting sick of being an associate. So he picked up on that. So he fired me because he had somebody else to replace me who was hungry, right? So then I was,
Wow.
and I used to be one of his best associates. He would always tell me, "You are the best. I've had all these other dentists." And this is what I felt, honestly, and I'm sure a lot of associates feel this way. You're like working really hard, making a lot of money for the owner, and he didn't pay me on a commission. I just got straight base salary. So then I was like, I'm like working my ass off for this guy. I'm only getting a straight paycheck, and he's not giving me any kind of incentive for producing. I was getting tired of it. So I was like, I just want to like think about private.
Yeah.
But so he caught up, he picked up on that and he fired me. And so then I like rushed. I rushed to oh thanks. My wife's giving me like sorry. Thank you. Quickly then
All good.
I
All
just
good.
worked out and I was like really hungry. So and then she's going to some event right now. But so this was nice. You gave me this.
Yeah.
So yeah, so he fired me, and so then I was scrambling. I was like, oh, what do I do? I've never been fired before in my life. So
Right.
then
Right.
it was
Huh.
crazy. So then I started. There was always this one dentist who said, "Hey, when you're ready, you can buy my practice," because he was kind of done. He was kind of mentally done. So I called him up, and I'm like, "Hey, Doug, I'm ready to buy a practice. I'm ready to buy your practice." And he goes, "Well, we were just talking about it, just here and there." He's like, "I'm not ready to sell to you yet." And I'm like, "Oh man."
Come
I'm like,
on.
"Come on, we just got to do it. We got to do the deal." He goes, "Well, when do you want to buy it?" And I'm like, "I want to buy it now." And he's like, "What? You want to buy it now?" And he goes, I haven't even thought about this, and I haven't even like." I'm like, "Just think about it. We got to do it." I'm like, ready. And he goes, "Why are you all of a sudden so ready to buy my practice?" Because
Hopefully he
before,
didn't look into that, did he?
yeah, he would tell me about it. I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds like a good idea." But I was like really motivated after I got fired. I just wanted to buy something. I was like, "I'm ready. Let's just do it." And
Yeah.
so I didn't want to tell him though I got fired. So I just said because that would that would scream
That would ruin that
fired.
result. Yeah.
Then he would have leverage over me. So he knew how anxious I was. So he raised the price by 10,000. He's like, "Okay, if you want to buy my practice," he raised it by 10,000, and he's like, "Give me the funds, and we'll do this." And so that's what happened. And then I bought it from him.
All right. All right. So, I mean, good ending, but also compared to these days, 10,000 is that's not too much of a
No,
raise, right? Like I keep
you're right.
hearing these companies, they're like raising $1 million, and
You're right.
wait a
So
minute, that's yeah,
um, honestly, he was a nice guy, and he didn't really. I was lucky because in this scenario, he realized how cheap his practice was. I mean, I'll tell you what I bought it for. I bought it for 150,000. So initially it was 140, and then he raised it 10,000 to 150, which is even by back then pretty cheap for a practice. And he
yeah, yeah.
wasn't doing that
That's
much.
great.
I mean, he was he was producing 300,000 total. Okay, 300,000 total. And now we're doing around 850, 900 some years, but usually let's say 850 on that practice. Okay.
Hmm.
So he didn't want to work, honestly. He was burnt out. He was done.
Hmm.
He wanted to do the least minimal amount of dentistry possible because he was just like, "I'm fed up. I'm done." He was a single guy, not married, no kids. He was taking care of one brother who was like mentally handicapped. So he didn't have a lot of expenses. And he's like, he just wanted to, and then he was depressed. He said, "I am just fed
Hmm.
up, burnt out of dentistry. I want to be done." So when dentists get burned out, they want to do the least amount possible. They're just kind of coasting
Yeah,
through. And that's what he was doing.
interesting. Oh man, you got to. Would you be able to close that door real quick? This. Yeah, we just had to close the door. I got to my one door in the little studio apartment squeaks. I got about 15 coats hanging on the back of it, and it squeaks all day long. But
No
no,
problem.
no, it's good stuff. Oh, interesting. So, and now that was that the Detroit practice or was that the suburban
That
practice?
was the suburban one, the Waterford one. Yeah.
Oh, okay, and then you started to go
And then
towards the city.
I started Detroit later because I was getting bored. I was getting bored in Waterford. And It's like Waterford is great. It's a great patient base, really nice people, but you're just doing the same, you see the same stuff every day. And it's not like really anything honestly fascinating. So what happened in Detroit is there's another practice that came up for sale. They were struggling and they were like just ready to be done. And I was like, you know what? I worked in Detroit as an associate also. So I was kind of familiar with the city. And I'm like, I don't mind it. I'll do it. And I said, if it doesn't work out, it's okay. I will then just get out of it and then just, and honestly, my goal wasn't to be there this long. I've been there like 14 years. I was like, oh, maybe I'll be there 4 or 5 years and then be done with it. But I just kept hanging in there. I liked it. I'm only there 2 days a week. So it's tough sometimes. 2 days a week, they keep my schedule pretty hectic, pretty busy. That's one negative.
Mm.
Sometimes I wish it wasn't that busy, but because we're only there 2 days a week, we have so many people. We have like a long, waiting list of people trying to get in. So we're doing what we can, but it does get stressful at times, honestly.
Got it. Got it. And a couple questions on that. So you are an associate at that practice, but you own the one in Waterford.
No, no, I'm an owner there. I used to be an associate in the Detroit practices when I first started in dentistry.
Got
But
it. Got it. Got it.
here
Okay.
I'm the owner. I'm the owner of both of them.
Sole owner of the one in Detroit.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, great. Great. Oh, that's awesome.
yeah,
All right. So yeah, you're going to pack up your schedule 2 days a week there. I mean, it makes sense.
yeah.
That makes sense. Then the other three here in Waterford, do you work
Other three
weekends at
in what?
all?
Say that again.
Work weekends at all? No.
No. So initially, when I first started, I did work weekends as an associate, and then even when I first started in Waterford, I did try weekends, and it was okay. But honestly, I mean, I'll give advice to everyone if they want any don't if you don't have to work weekends, don't work weekends. You can be busy as you want during Monday through Friday. I mean, I used to work in the mall. Okay, I used to work retail in the mall before dental school, and we
Oh,
would have late hours in the mall, weekend hours, and really late. And I hated it. I was like, you know what? I absolutely hate working here in the mall, these late hours. And I'm like, if I ever get my own business or own practice, I'm just gonna always remember I don't want to work late evenings and no
yep.
weekends. So I don't work weekends.
100%. I hear you on that. I've been working weekends for years. During dental school, I did
Yeah.
lifeguarding on weekends.
Oh
I
wow.
also did retail in the mall. I worked at Hollister or whatever the thing.
Yeah.
So I know what you mean, working late until 10:30. But
Yes.
now in residency, yeah, I mean, it goes all night long. You got a page at 2:30. All of a sudden, you got to go and
You got to jump in. I know.
I'm totally with you on that. The weekends, and I think working weekends really kind of accelerates like the so-called burnout. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because here's the thing: you have a hard, jam-packed Monday through Friday, right? And I know you know this,
Right.
right? You might be you were working at two different offices,
Yeah.
2 days a week. You were going all the way into Detroit, back to Waterford for the other
Right.
three. Maybe it was a different schedule back then when you started, but you're working a hard Monday through Friday, and then
Right.
all of a sudden, your little break to recharge gets
Right.
taken from you, where one of those 2 days you're working.
I would go
Um,
crazy. Yeah. I would go crazy. I enjoy working, but I don't want to work that much. And burnout is a serious thing. You're right. If you do too much at one time, it's stressful. I mean, looking in the mouth, trying to find these small little canals all the time. I do a lot of molar endo, and it was like I know why general dentists hate molar endo because you're looking in the small little area for these tiny, tiny, minuscule canals, and you're trying to navigate through them, and you're hoping not to separate a file and break something, and the patient's getting tired. Everyone's freaking out about root canals, or and you're trying to calm them down before you numb them up. So mentally
right,
draining.
right.
Yeah, yeah,
Super draining, super draining. Let's get into okay. So TikTok, you go 1.3 million and 1.2, 1.3 million.
and then
If
one.
I
Yeah,
well, okay, but then 33 on Instagram, if I remember correctly.
yeah,
Rough numbers. Bottom line is you had some success here with social media. I think it started from TikTok and then you pulled from TikTok. Here's the
yeah.
thing though, I was looking. Your biggest TikTok was, I think it was like 13 million views. The biggest Instagram was 19,
Oh
but you have
wow.
more followers on TikTok. So look,
Yeah,
I could be wrong, but I was just scanning and I did notice this with my little TikTok Instagram kind of
yeah.
thing. It's so interesting. Gary Vee calls it the TikTokification. I was wondering if you had any comments on this because it's quite fascinating when you really get into the science of attention, engagement,
I
social media
know.
content creation.
You know, for initially on TikTok, I was growing quickly, right? Now it's not so much. It's very slow growth, and it's I don't know why.
But it is growth. But it is
But
growth.
yes,
Very slow, right?
very
But
very slow, right? And then Instagram for a long time, I never got traction on Instagram, and then all of a sudden, I've been getting traction on it, and I don't know why either. I think I'm not sure actually. I still don't know why because I don't put hashtags on any of my posts, and it's just I try different things out, but maybe people are noticing my content more on Instagram, or it's like the algorithm is pushing it out more than before. Because it's weird, like I would do a post and then some other dental site would use my post and like try to repost it, and that same post on their site did amazing, where on my
mm,
site it did horrible. So I don't know what's going on really.
it's so
But
strange.
yeah, but maybe Instagram, I will tell you this: Facebook, Instagram, they've done a good job, because what's happening, they knew they were losing a lot of followers, right, in social media to TikTok.
Oh,
And so now you notice everything on Instagram is reel oriented, right? Even Facebook, it's all Facebook,
all
like
of it.
Instagram Shorts, whatever. Um, that's where everything is. Like, people are not posting on Instagram. You used to post like pictures of vacation or your car or like going out somewhere or like family, and all, right? That doesn't
Right.
really happen anymore.
It's all reels now.
It's
The
all
whole thing.
reels. And so it's fascinating. So they have switched all that. Like, if you invest in stocks and Meta and all these things, Meta was doing really bad at one time with their metaverse investment. Then Zuckerberg, he changed things around, right? He's like, okay, we got, because they have such a huge amount of people on Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram. They need to figure out how to be more competitive. And they finally switched it around, and they did it. And they did a good job, I think, with reels and shorts. Like, people
They
now,
did.
want to have like content engagement on Insta. Like, a lot of people, like, when I like walk around town, we live in Birmingham, in downtown Birmingham, people will come up to me and randomly like, "Oh, you're Dentite 313," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, you saw my stuff." He goes, "Yeah, yeah, I love your content." But a lot of them only follow me now, or they, at least the ones I met, have said they see me on Instagram, but they didn't even know about my TikTok. Some people, older people, don't have TikTok, and they
Right,
only
right,
have
right. Yeah.
Instagram. So they're just like, "Oh yeah, I just saw you on Instagram, and then I just follow you on Instagram." But they're like, "Yeah, I don't have TikTok." So it's kind of
Right, right.
interesting, you know?
Are you also posting to Facebook Reels or
Yeah,
YouTube Shorts? Are you
yeah,
okay?
Facebook.
Okay.
I am, and then Facebook initially also it shot up. The engagement went up
I
on
noticed
Facebook
that.
too.
Yep.
Yeah, it's under my like my practice site, Capadia Dental Care. So in that it did shoot up, and so I was just thought that was interesting. But I think same thing. Facebook realized they're losing a lot of people, customers to TikTok, so they made sure now to get the Facebook what is it, Shorts? Like, they started to do really
Reels.
well. Yeah,
Facebook
Reels.
Reels. Yeah, yeah,
Facebook
yeah.
Reels. I always get them confused. Yeah, Facebook Reels. And some countries ban TikTok, right? Like, I heard, I don't know if it's still true, India at one time banned TikTok. So then
I
in
heard
that
that.
population, right, they were all doing Facebook. And that's what has been doing really well.
Right, right. I think it's fascinating, honestly, and you brought up a great point. So you were calling it Facebook Shorts. I think it's Facebook Reels. But
Okay.
now that you mention it, I do think the Reels that have done better on Facebook match really well with YouTube Shorts, because YouTube is obviously, it's
Yeah.
primarily a search engine. So if you put in a
Yeah.
good title and the video follows up with like oil pulling, right, and it gives a
Yeah.
solid, YouTube does great. It's informative. It matches the title. Boom. I think Reels, and I could be wrong. I'm still in the beta testing of this idea, but I think
Yeah.
Facebook Reels, they have a search bar in there now. Could be wrong. I think that's mimicking YouTube Shorts. Instagram is 1,000% mimicking TikTok, right?
Yes.
And so the ones that do, this is how I was doing it, and I'm going to take a break from the daily residency thing now. But what I was doing was I was doing one TikTok a day, like the daily residency, what I saw, what I did, whatever, blah blah blah. Little key facts. The ones that did well on TikTok, those are the only ones I would bring over to Instagram, and
Oh,
they would fly. So what I think is that they mimic the algorithm that TikTok
yeah.
has.
Yeah.
However, the ones that do well on so after a while, we're talking about now,
Yeah.
not 2 years ago. Two
Yeah.
years ago, let's be honest, everything that was decent content did great on TikTok.
Yeah.
Now, only the elite content
Yes.
on TikTok does
Yeah.
well.
Goes
But
up.
now it's like it could be the elite content and then you put it into Instagram and it
Yeah.
flies.
Yeah.
You might even double or triple or even, I've
Yeah.
seen 10 to 20 times as many views on Instagram now, Instagram Reels, than on TikTok for a good TikTok. So
Yes.
just
That's true. Yeah. That's very true. So that's interesting. Yeah. I know. It's a good point.
it's fascinating stuff. I gotta say, I really like the Jolly Rancher idea because we don't learn that in dental school. You know what I mean? It's like you got to use this really expensive apparatus. It's $250 a pop. Just stick a Jolly Rancher in there. The crown comes right off.
Yep.
What are we doing? You you should name it the Huzefa, and then all of a sudden, like, just charge $100, and it's like, well, you're saving 150, right? It's just a Jolly Rancher with like a green.
I know,
Hey, I mean, good
buddy.
ideas, right?
That's right.
Oh, but good stuff. Good stuff. So let's hop into another. So I noticed you wear some nice watches, but I get the take that you're a big car guy first.
Oh yeah, yeah. So yeah, right now my watch is this Apple Watch.
Well, you just got out of the workout. That's not fair. That's not.
But yeah, I'm into cars, and right now we have a G wagon. Nothing crazy, but I had a lot of fun cars in the past, and so I think I started getting into cars. Man, it was a long time ago, mate. I feel like 15 years ago. But anyway, Porsche 911. My
Mhm.
first one, Porsche 911 C4 convertible cabriolet. I bought it from a guy in West Virginia. West Virginia. I was so excited. Me and my wife, we rented a car. We drove down there. And my dad was like, oh my God, you're just going to go to West Virginia and buy a car? And I got my cashier's check ready. And he goes, this guy could be crazy. He could kill you. How could you? West Virginia? Who owns a Porsche in West Virginia? And I go, that's a good point. I had to look him up. And I found him on LinkedIn. He's some executive of a big company out there, and he was a single guy. He was a cool guy, really into cars and bikes, motorcycles, and I saw his thing in the LinkedIn profile. I go, okay, well, I think he's normal. I Googled him or whatever, and so
Yeah.
but we went down there, and he was a cool guy, and he had this beautiful silver 911 Porsche, and that's when I first got into it, and I drove it all the way back to Michigan. Beautiful car. And then after that, other cars like an Audi R8, a Ferrari 430, a Lambo Gallardo, I don't know, 560 PLP or whatever. I can't remember the number. Then after that, Ferrari 458, Lamborghini Aventador, a
We
Ferrari.
get to the Lambos and Ferraris. Which was your
Yeah,
favorite one of all these, though?
yeah, a lot of people ask that. I have this very big nostalgia for that 911 C4S. It wasn't even that fast. It was a 2007, but it was such the stick shift, the manual. It was beautiful. I really like that car because that was my first. And it's not a lot of people are like
Mm.
an exotic. It's a sports car, which is true, right? It's a
Mm.
class sports car. But I really love Porsches. It's like and I'll tell you, I did the best. Some like when I sold it, that was before the pandemic prices. I've done better on some cars during the pandemic, flipping them. But the Porsche, you don't lose money on 911s. They really hold their value well, and lose money. It's very, very minor amounts because there's demand on it. It's so good. Like, they really hold their value, and especially 911 GT3s. That's what I'm looking for now. But the other cars were really flashy. They were fun. The Aventador, that thing was a beast, and it just like a V12 engine, all this power, and the looks of the Aventador by far was my favorite. The doors come up. I love that. I thought that was cool. But in
That's
terms,
pretty awesome, yeah.
yeah, all around iconic car is to me still Porsche 911.
How about that? Interesting. I've only heard good things about the Porsche 911. How big is your garage? Come on, you
So
must have like a 5-car garage.
that's what you would think. And so that's what we did have at one time, a 4-car garage. Yes, a 4-car garage. And I would buy and sell because I didn't want to have too many cars at one time. I was just like, that's too crazy. So as like I would enjoy them for a year and a half, sometimes 2 years, and then sell it.
Yeah.
But now, what we did, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but we had a very large house a few years ago, and it was over $2 million, and we sold it, and I made a decent amount of profit, and I sold it because it's just really the four of us. It was a 10,000 square foot house, And I was like, we had a huge pool. And at first it was really exciting. When I bought it, 2018, amazing, really excited. I wanted to do this. Like we wanted this like iconic, beautiful, big, huge mansion. And it just was cool.
Hmm.
Then as time went on, the property taxes are really expensive to maintain. Maintenance on that property are huge. And I still remember
Yeah.
the pool guy, when he met us, he's like, I tell everyone this when they buy this house or this pool, just a pool in general. He goes, eventually, you're just going to be staring at this pool. No one's going to swim in it. And you're going to be paying me every week a lot of money, a small fortune to maintain this pool that no one's going to be using. And he says, I'm just letting you know, don't be offended. And he was absolutely right. After a couple of years, nobody used.
Oh.
So I was, interesting. But you know what I noticed is at that time, this was during right after COVID, housing was very limited, and a lot of people wanted to move by houses, they just couldn't. And wealthy people too, they wanted to buy houses, bigger homes, but they couldn't get the builders to build them on time, or the prices of materials have jumped up so high
Oh, forget
that
it.
it didn't make sense for anyone to, yeah, build a house from scratch. And so I listed our house and we sold it. We sold it really fast, and then we scrambled to find another house. And then I took that money and I invested it. And I'm really into investing. So I think this is really important. And I thought about this during dental school, and it was always in my head. Um, and I'll probably I know I have to go in a little bit, but I wanted to tell you this, that at 48, I'm 48 now. I have a lot of friends who have had health issues. And in my 20s, my 30s, I never saw anybody of like my friends get sick or like have health problems. Now, a guy from my dental school, he's 47, he put a post on Facebook. He cannot practice dentistry anymore. And that's shocking, right? I remember him really well, Eric. We went to dental school, really nice guy, great guy. And he said that he had
47.
at 47, and he has a, yeah, that blew me away. And not only him, I've gotten other messages from other dentists, but his case was this: 47, neurological disease. He said that they don't know exactly what it was. Okay, it's just like Parkinson like type disease. His his disability insurance refuses to cover him because they don't have an exact diagnosis, and they can't, they just don't know yet. But he said it's apparently obvious to me now I cannot practice anymore because of this neurological issue. So he had to sell his practice, and he said, this is a warning to all my friends and classmates: get your house in order, because this came nowhere for him, and it's really shocking. And I told my wife, I'm like, you know what, this is scary. Like, think about that. That can happen to anybody, and nobody thinks about that potentially happening to them. They're like, oh, 47, prime career of your life. You've got another 30 years or more, or, give or take. And he, no one thinks about these terms. But he had that issue. He had to stop. And then I had a few other friends who've had heart attacks and heart problems, and they had to go get rushed into the hospital to put a stent. One had open heart surgery for a valve replacement at 47, believe it or
Oh,
not.
another 47.
And
Jesus, you're
I'm
scaring me.
48. So this is like, it blew me away. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start changing. I want to have enough income, passive income as well, because here's the thing: anyone can work their ass off in dentistry, right? But if something happens to you where you cannot, you need to have a backup plan. And the two best, for me, best conservative options is real estate and stocks, equities. Okay, that is
No
like
crypto? No
stocks.
crypto?
So I don't do crypto now anymore because I'll tell you why. Yeah, I know you're big. A lot of people are into crypto. I have my friends, some of my friends, and some of my cousins. They've done extremely, extremely well. Unfortunately for me, I've gotten burned so many times because I bought at different times, and it just never panned out for me. So I'm not a huge crypto fan at all, even though I know that, listen, right now it's at 40,000 or 45,000 a coin. If it ever gets to 20,000 again, or 15, 20,000, maybe then at that time I might buy it. I would not buy it now, because now you're following the hype. Everybody's
Yep.
getting, don't get into something when everybody else is doing it, okay?
Right.
Get into
Right.
it if you want, when everything, and it's going to drop. It's a cycle, and it'll probably go back up again. So, like, I've been following it here and there, and every time I screwed up and I miss the cycle and I get burnt, and I was like, damn it.
Because it was just at 15. But wait, I
Yeah,
want to get off crypto
yeah,
real quick.
yeah.
The stock pick, I'm sure you and I are on the same page with stocks, dividends, and stuff. My favorite's VOO. It's what Warren Buffett recommends. I want to hear your recommendation of real estate, though.
Okay, so sure, real estate. Now I haven't bought real estate recently. What I've been doing, I've been selling a lot. I've had over 20 houses, okay, in real estate, single
20
family,
houses.
20 houses. Some were duplexes, some were like 4 units, okay. So that's traditional.
Wait a minute, how'd you get into that? I got no real estate. I got this tiny little studio that's $3,000 a month.
Yeah.
My feet hit the wall when I go to bed at night. How do you get started into that? You got a duplex, you got a quadruplex?
So, okay, it's funny how I started. I started in 2000. When the market crashed in 2008, the housing market, around
Yes.
that time. I didn't start right at '08. I think I was 2009, 10, in that area. And even then, it was 2 years after the huge crash of everything, but still, housing was still a mess. It was depressed. And even at 2009, 10, I kept buying 2011, 2012, 2013, 14, 15. I kept gradually buying. Now the prices have gone up, so I'm not buying. But it's funny because I had no clue about real estate. I would get books from the library on how to rehab houses and rent them out. Okay, I loved reading stuff like that, investing. And so then I was like, okay, I think I can do this on my own. I would try to buy foreclosures or short sales. Those were the two houses, but they needed a lot of work. Okay,
Mm.
this is the problem. They need a lot of work. I had no experience in this. I would put ads on Craigslist randomly and then try to like get people to bid on the work that needed to be done. And I made a huge mistake. I hired a crackhead. I hired a guy named Harry. I'll call him this Crackhead Harry. And I even made a denture for him. The guy had no teeth, and I made a denture for this guy. And I was like, and I met him, and he looked weird. He looked odd. Yet he knew so much about housing, right? He knew everything. Like I would ask him this, this, this. So he knew a lot. But the problem is, he just said he fell on hard times. But the issue he had was a drug. He was a drug.
His teeth said otherwise. Yeah,
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 yeah. He's a crackhead. Okay, so he has a drug habit, and that's why he
yeah.
lost it. Of course, he didn't tell me that. And so, so I'm like, I gave him $10,000. Guess what? That $10,000, he didn't do crap to the house. It's gone. So he didn't do anything to this house. I keep calling him too, and I can't find him. He doesn't return my calls. I think he went to jail too. Then he finally tells me, "Oh, I got out of jail." I'm like, "Wait, you got out of jail? What happened?" And he goes, "Oh, long story, doc." And then I'm like, "Well, I've been looking at my house. Have you fixed this house that I bought?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, yeah. Don't worry, don't worry." And then
Don't worry.
walked
Yep.
done. He goes, "Oh, I need another 15,000." I'm like, "What the hell? Where did that
It went
go?"
up.
Yeah. So he went to drugs. And so and this is the weird thing too. He has a half brother, and he goes, "You talk to my half brother. He will tell you that his brother worked in the dental lab business. Okay, his brother owned a dental lab which makes prosthetics, and he wanted his brother to make the denture." I'm like, wait a minute. You're broke. You're a crackhead, and you're telling me your brother, who has a success, and he was a very successful lab owner, dental lab owner, is going to make this. Are you? So he goes, yeah, call him, call him. So I called his brother, and I go, wait. This is your brother Harry, this guy, and he goes, yeah, you met him, and I go, yeah, and he goes, "Yeah, man. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. Harry he has got a huge drug habit. He comes in and out of jail, and he's gonna ask everyone for money. He's asked me for money. He goes, whatever you do, do not give him money." And I'm like, "Oh, great! I already gave him 10 grand. That went." So that was my start into how I try to rehab houses. Okay, so
Did you finally get someone though to
yeah,
rehab the house that you? Okay.
finally I got somebody, and man, I had to pay somebody else another 20, 25,000. So I lost a lot. Okay, and that was a huge
Yeah.
educational expense on me learning who to trust, because Me and you, I think professionals, for the most part, we're pretty trustworthy. When I tell somebody, oh, I'm going to do this, or when I tell somebody I'm going to pay them, I pay them. I don't play games. I'm like, oh, I don't have the money. Oh, call me next week. Oh, maybe in a month I'll have your money. To me, that's embarrassing. If I do business with somebody, shake their hand, we're like, this is the deal. This is what we're going to do. And I follow through on my end. But
Right.
unfortunately,
Right.
I was naive. That's not how the real world works. There are a lot of shady people, a lot of people who will take advantage of you when you're naive, and I am. I was. Now, after you
Yeah.
get seasoned for a while, and you learn this. Even renters, okay, renters in real estate, they will also play a game. They won't pay you on time. They'll come up with excuse after excuse. And I never had to evict anyone, and I didn't want to until I did. Anyone who owns real estate, you will have to evict a tenant. Absolutely, you will have to in your lifetime. If
How do
someone,
you hedge that though? How do you like
yeah,
prevent, you know?
very confusing because I didn't know what to do. And it's really like if you try to do it yourself, it's very hard. If you're running a practice, you have other stuff going on. What I would recommend to everyone is if you have more than a couple units, find a property manager. They are going to take a cut of the rental income. They usually charge 10 to 12%, but you need one because things get wild after a while. You're going to have plumbing issues, heating issues.
Mhm.
You're gonna and I would try to manage this remotely on my own. The damn problem is, again, these contractors rip you off. They know you're not at the house. They'll say, "Hey, this needs to be replaced," or "This plumbing pipe or leak has to be replaced." They claim they did it, and then like a couple weeks later, it blows up in my face again. And then you're running around trying to find the guy who did it, and then you realize
They're
they did
gone.
an
Yeah.
absolutely crap garbage job. They ripped you off, so that happens a lot in that industry. So it's very hard to find people to trust.
So a property manager, you're saying, get a
Yeah,
property manager.
you need a
How did
property.
you find the property manager? How did you find the contractor after Crackhead Harry? Who you
Yeah,
did you find someone on Craigslist? Was it somewhere else?
that's a good question. That was a long time ago. I did look on Craigslist again, or then I would have to call friends. Friends who knew people who were doing work on their house. I would ask that contractor, hey, if you're not that busy, do you think you could give me a quote on this house, the rental house that needs this work, everything. And at that
I see.
time, it was good. I could find people, and then eventually you find people you can trust. But the problem is, those guys get really busy and then they have a bunch of other jobs lined up, then they become unreliable. They're like, no, I got too many other things going on. They may say yes to your job, but then they disappear and they're like doing a million other jobs in the meantime. So, and even right
Yeah.
now, the contractors are very hard to find. So there are pros and cons in real estate, but if you want less headaches, and I know people kind of get bored. You mentioned VOO index fund. That's like one of the best index funds. It's straightforward. It has the lowest expense ratio. Warren Buffett always recommends it, and people are like, "Oh, that's so boring. I want to make 100,000%, and I want to do this. I mean, this is like garbage. I'm only getting 7%. That's so stupid. Why do I want to do that?" But you guys don't realize all the money you're going to lose chasing these, like, these Teslas and Amazon. They're very hard to find on your
Yeah.
own randomly.
Yeah.
Okay, they've done studies on this, and even professional hedge fund manager and stock pickers, they get burned a lot. And I think Warren Buffett did this study. He's like, over like 15, 20 years, right? VOO always comes out ahead. And like people are like, what? That's like, but it's such gradually great, steady returns.
It's fantastic.
Nothing,
Yep.
yeah, nothing like out of the ballpark, but it does well.
Just reinvest the dividend. Yep.
Yeah,
Name of the
reinvest
game.
dividend. And this is one thing I didn't realize is snowball effect. And honestly, I didn't realize this till I sold that big house and I started putting this money into the market and then just building and building and building off of it. If you put small amounts, it's very frustrating because people are like that, small monthly amount. Let's say you're putting $100 a month or $1,000 a month, and it's just growing really slow.
Mm.
People get kind of fed up. They're like, "Oh, this sucks, man." It's not, but over time, it will grow. But got to be patient, right? And it's hard. It's hard to be patient. Like in your 20s and 30s, you just want to hit it big. But like Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, all these guys, they said the biggest advantage for them was they started early and they kept doing it and they lived long. Charlie Munger
Mm.
just died. 99 years old. Warren Buffett's 95 or something, or 96. And he's been fortunate to have a long life. So the longer you live, it will keep growing, and that compounding snowball effect on your investments does take off eventually. So it does happen.
Big snowball. Yeah.
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 No, you got to live on it. It's that compounding interest, and I believe in that. You
That's
got to
right.
take a little risk once in a while too.
Yeah.
But no, that's what they say. They keep like 50% or more safe, and then 25 to 40% take some risk. I love that idea. We
Exactly.
missed one top. We missed one.
One
What?
of
I know you got to go soon. I know
no, go
you
ahead.
got some time. Just really quick. I've always want. Well, I just want to know what you thought of the Audi R8. Honestly, like, don't just exactly what you thought. Honestly, is it good? Is it not good?
The Audi R8.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I really like that car. Only negative is, this is the thing. I had a 2008 Audi R8, so it was old compared, right? So at that time, nobody saw an R8 before. This is 2008, so it
Mm.
turned heads like crazy. It was a very exotic machine, and people. It's so funny. I would ask people, well, "How much do you think this car costs?" And they'd be like, "Oh man, my car had to be like $1 million, 500,000, 700,000, all these crazy numbers." I'm like, man, it was nothing close to that. I don't even know what it cost at that time. It was probably like 80 or 90,000. Yeah, that's what. And it was a V.
Really?
Yeah, it was a gate. It was a manual V8, and the manual gate shifter was great. Okay, but
Mm.
now the issue is, if I compare an Audi R8 now, okay, to what I've had other cars, it's boring to me because unfortunately I've had Lambos, I've had Ferraris, and that's the issue. Then I'm comparing it to that, and it's just
Mm.
an exciting car for me. Okay, I'm just telling you. But in terms
I
of
see.
all around daily driver, it is great. It's all-wheel drive. It's reliable. It is fun. But it's quieter than a Lambo. It's not as aggressive as a Lambo. You can tune
Hmm.
these cars up. So I do know people who will put a chip in it, modify the exhaust. It makes it sound much more aggressive, which can
Mhm.
work. And they are. It's nice. It is reliable in that sense.
Interesting. And then the last car question, because I want to get one of these. I've already decided I don't need one in the city, but once
Yeah.
I get out and working, what's your take on the Cybertruck?
Oh yeah, the Cybertruck. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I saw a couple in real life here in Birmingham.
Really? I
Somebody,
haven't seen one yet. I've been
yeah,
looking every day.
yeah. Somebody has it. They got it. Like they were the first to get it. So they had. They're here in Michigan, and it's rare, but I have seen it. And so it. This is the thing. I was really excited, very excited about this car. And then I put that on my Instagram post. Do you guys like it or not? And so many people said, no, it looks horrible. It looks crazy. It looks ugly. But Elon Musk, all right? Elon Musk, to me, I read his book by Walter Isaacson. He's a genius. He is a very difficult personality. He's eccentric. He's on a spectrum. Okay, he is different. Okay, so he comes up with some
He's got
crazy.
Asperger's
Yes,
though, you know?
yes, yeah. That's
And
what.
wait, I think he's better than Steve Jobs though. I mean,
Yeah,
I just
maybe, maybe. Steve Jobs was he. The thing is, these two guys, both geniuses. They were game changers. They changed the industry to a whole different. And I think Elon Musk, to me, is smarter than Steve Jobs because he's doing so many companies at one time.
that is true.
He's just
That
crazy
is true.
stuff. Obviously Tesla. And Tesla, he says, is not a car company, which people don't realize. What he's gonna do with Tesla, I think, is really go into AI. He wants to push AI completely into Tesla and take it to a different level with the robots.
Because he's making AI dimensional. You know,
Yeah,
you look at ChatGPT; it's like a search bar, like
yeah,
Google. He's making AI come out into the world with robots,
real
with
world.
cars. I
Yes.
think you're right. It's fascinating. It really, it's impressive.
Yeah, so I think it's a very cool truck. Would I buy one? Maybe after years of it like being existing and to see how it does.
Sure,
I'm also
sure,
worried
yeah.
about resale value. Okay, if you know anything about Teslas, the resale value on these cars do not always do well because people see these cars as an iPhone. That when the new version comes out, they don't
Uh,
want the right. They're like it's devalued, just like a phone or a computer becomes obsolete even though they do software updates on these cars constantly, that's the issue. People just are like, oh man. And I have noticed how the quality has changed on Tesla from 8 years ago till now. Like now, it's a much better vehicle that they make now than 8 years prior. It's a very rough vehicle. The suspension is rough, but he said all along that this car, it does. It has the most tech ever. It's very advanced, and that's where the money and the brains is the technology. Right? They're not like
Yes.
not going to be smooth like a Mercedes Benz, or like the materials in it won't be as nice, but the tech is still better than what all these other manufacturers are coming into with with automated and
Oh yeah, I think
driving.
they're years ahead of that. The
Yeah,
other ones, and I also thought it was cool that it was bulletproof. I don't know if you saw the Joe Rogan shooting
that is,
and the Tommy gun. That's wild.
yes, I like the concept a lot, and I like that they went somewhere different. He said he wanted to do something completely different with this truck, and I think overall it's going to do well. It will do well, I think, but that's my. Uh, but we'll see. Time will tell.
Of course, of course. What the G wagon
Yeah.
is that bulletproof? No.
No, I wish it was. I think they do make them. They do make them bulletproof, but you have to pay a lot more money for, like, these heads of states and stuff. I think they do get
Ah,
their G wagons bulletproof. Yeah, and the G wagon's a fun vehicle. I mean, that to me is my favorite SUV, and I'll tell you why. It's like you're sitting up high. You do feel like you're in a tank. It is a V8, okay, and it's a V8. I think dual turbo V8. It sucks up a lot of gas, but the engine. Anytime I start that car up, it's this loud, awesome rumble. And I just love the sound of the engine. It's so badass. The interior is amazing. It's very luxurious. And I just love how it looks. To me, and then the doors. When you close the doors, you have to slam the doors, and they slam like a vault. They make it like a vault, which is awesome. I
that's
love that.
pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, and they don't want to change it. So they do. They're very picky about the sound of the car regarding the doors, and you cannot close them lightly. They don't have soft closed doors. You do have to slam it, and uh,
Hmm.
and it makes this really loud, nice mechanical click thunk, and you feel like a vault, and it's just so cool.
That is pretty cool. Yeah, and what's the thing I heard about the weight where it's like it becomes a tax break if it's
Yeah,
under because it's above a certain. It's like
it's
5 tons or something.
it's above 6,000 pounds. So then, if you
6,000 pounds. That's a heavy car.
that's a very heavy car. So you can basically potentially write that off as a you as a tax deduction. Now, you can you write off all of it? No, because it's really for business expense. So it's only what you use for your business. Okay, but your accountant. Again, I'm not an accountant. I'm just a dentist. You would have to run that by your CPA to find out if it works in your. If you have multiple businesses or multiple things to do, then it could work out.
Right, right, right. Interesting. And you're not worried about that heavy car like dipping into the cesspool one night when it's really raining or something. You're not worried about that, right?
Question, I don't know. It has really low profile tires, and I'm thinking there's so many potholes in Michigan. So you hit a pothole right, you're gonna blow out a tire because that thing is so damn heavy. That vehicle.
Ooh.
So that could happen. You could bend a rim.
All right, all right. Bending a rim. At least you could still roll it back home or something. That's good.
Yeah.
All right, man. Thank you so much for calling. I'll let you go. I know we went a little past
Hey,
the
it was
time.
fun. Yeah, I had a great time. Great talking to you, and let's do some more in the future.
Yeah, man. This was fun. You were
Yeah.
great. This was a good time.
Yeah.
We'll do it again soon. We'll do a part two.
Okay. Sounds good, man. Thanks, Brendan.
All right, man. Thank you.
Evening. All right. Bye bye.